Everyone is struggling with something, or at least we have. And if you're going to walk this walk and live this life, one of the things to note is that everybody struggles. No matter how people seem, how perfect it all seems, or how much they smile, or how much they give, everybody struggles. And in today's episode on the You, Me, and Jesus podcast, we are going to talk about overcoming spiritual struggles. So welcome back to another episode of the You, Me, and Jesus podcast. We are here every single Sunday on the YouTube channel, and we are here on the podcast. And so if you're listening or watching, thank you so much for being here. If you wouldn't mind, please share this with a friend, letting them know that they should listen to this or watch this video, because that is how we're going to be able to reach more people. So today we are talking about overcoming spiritual struggles. And one of the things that, happens to me all the time is I meet people and they don't think that I have any problems, and they don't think I have any kind of struggles. And when I think about that, there were people that I used to feel the same way about. I used to go to church, the pastor's wives, kids, prayer team, praise team, all the things, expecting that nothing is going on with them. And I started to realize over time, of course, wasn't immediate, that everybody struggles, that we don't get to live this life and not have some type of struggle in life. And we deal with spiritual struggles. And what the Bible talks about it says that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but rulers and powers, principalities and dark places and all that. So it's there's going to be spiritual battles going on because it is written in the scriptures. And so I wanted to have this conversation today. One, just to let you know that you're not alone. Two, for we can connect so you can understand that I have my own battles, right? Even though I am here and I am encouraging you, you may see me on social media and all the things, I deal with a lot of struggles that even though you don't see me blasting it all over social media or blasting it in church, or if you happen to go to church with me and you see me on the prayer line and I'm praying, I need you to understand that we're all the same. I am just like you, and I deal with struggles as well, okay? Now, today we're talking about how to actually overcome them, all right? And so I have a couple things that I want to share. And the first thing that I want to share is that in order to overcome something, you have to first admit that something is going on, right? It's kind of I think it was AA, and it's first you have to admit you have a problem. Same thing goes with spiritual struggles. You have to admit that something is going on, that something is beyond your control. There is something that you are dealing with and you're I just don't know what to do. That could be something spiritual. It could be something that is emotional, physical, mental, whatever it is, but you are struggling and you are going to God and you are just this is such a battle for me, and I don't know how to overcome it or how to deal with it, right? And so it's first you got to admit that you are dealing with the struggle, okay? Because you can't get help with the thing. Nobody can help you, and God can do whatever he wants to do, but oftentimes it's an invitation for us to come to him to say, I am dealing with this, and I need your help, right? Because one thing I've learned about God is that he's our savior, but he's not gonna force us into anything. You know what I mean? And so first things first is admitting that you have a problem, okay? And the second thing that has to happen, no matter what, is outside of people, outside of you, is you have got to go to God with the struggle. You've got to go to him with the struggle. I love my friends. I love my family. I love my journal. I love my cats, whatever. But I have got to go to the one that created me, right? We have got to go to the one that created us, and we have to come to him honestly. People always say humbly, and yes, humbly for sure, but you have to go to God honestly. And what that means is that if you are upset, then you have to go to him upset. If you are sad or disappointed or confused or overwhelmed, whatever it is that you are feeling, you have got to go with him with those feelings. And it's really important to understand that he can handle it. He created the whole world, right? And so he knew he can handle it. He can handle you and what's going on with you just as much as he can handle me and what's going on with me, right? I remember when I first started going through divorce, when I found out my ex was cheating, I was so mad at everybody, at myself, at my ex, at my husband at the time, at God. I'm so mad. And I remember a friend of mine saying, Kenya, God can handle your temper tantrum. I was like, what? She said, God can handle your temper tantrum. You don't have to be this polished, whatever. You can go to him just as raw and real as you would come to me. And it was at that moment that I got for permission to just be a child, right? And oftentimes when a child does not get their way, if they are not like learn how to master their emotions, they're all over the place. They're like flailing on the floor. They're crying uncontrollably. They're a mess. And I started to realize that it's perfectly okay to be a mess before God, because it's like that's the best person to actually be a mess before. And so the first person that you need to go to with this after admitting you have a problem is to God. And you go to him in a way where it's like it doesn't have to be structured. You don't have to be poised. Like none of that stuff. You can literally just go to him in your raw state and be honest about everything that you're feeling. Be honest with him about absolutely every single thing that you are feeling. Because it's when you unload all of that onto him, then you take it off of yourself, right? So if you got like 100,000 pounds on you of these struggles, and you unload it on the God who created everything, including you, then guess what happens? Now you are no longer burdened with that like by yourself, because now you put it on his shoulders, right? You know, a lot of us may not be used to having somebody to go to and unload that stuff and know that they care and they can listen and all that type of stuff. But I started to learn during my process of divorce that like God is like, he has never told me stop coming to me about that. Never. He has never said, I don't want to hear about that anymore. We already talked about that. No, I just continue to come to him over and over and over again with the same issue or something different. You know what I mean? And so you have got to go to God, okay, about all that. Then once you actually go to God, now you got to listen. Right? Not to a person. You have to go listen to God. Okay? Because once you tell him, here's what I'm struggling with, right? Here's all the things I'm struggling with. You've got to listen to get his perspective. Okay? Because you have one perspective, which is the emotion and the moment that you are in with all of that. But you have to go to him and get his perspective so he can give you his and you can see a little bit clearer, right? That doesn't mean that all your problems now go away, because now he's going to give you his perspective. But what oftentimes it is going to do is oftentimes it's going to show you here is where God is. Here is how God sees this. And then once you're able to see that, then you're able to begin to go on this journey of God, how do I navigate this, right? So first is admitting it. Second thing is going to him. Third thing is actually listening to him. And then it's, okay, God, what do we do next? How do I partner with you in this, right? So I had some times when I was dealing with like demonic forces, like just, I knew it was the devil. It was just very, very, very strong principalities, rulers, and all that stuff, you know. Took me a while to realize it, but I was like, oh, shoot, this is the devil. And I remember being so overwhelmed and so stressed out and just about all the different things that were happening and not knowing what to do. And I was like, as much as I go to my friends, some of them think I'm crazy, but I'm like, no, this is really happening. And after going to God and unleashing and then listening and asking him, how do we partner? Then he began to teach me how to walk in my authority. He began to teach me how to have authority over my residence, my sleep time, my wake time, how to have authority over demons. He began to just really teach me how to operate this life and deal with this issue that I was dealing with. And it wasn't like it was quick and over with, right? But it did equip me. And so then we went on this journey. And then, of course, that issue was gone. And when that issue has come up again, I'm like, now I know how to deal with it. So, for example, I used to like, when I would go to hotels, I would, go sleep at night and I would dream about all this crazy stuff in my dreams. I would wake up just so restless, just terrible. And he started to teach me that you have to take authority over every place where you sleep. Like, because if you don't go in and take authority, then those spirits that are operating in there are going to leave you restless and all this stuff. And I was like, that seems kind of crazy. But I remember moving into a place in Houston, and I started having all these dreams at night. And it wasn't until I took authority and like put oil on the doors and the windows and all that stuff that it stopped. And so when I went to a hotel like maybe a year ago and that happened, I was just like, oh shoot, I forgot to anoint, the hotel room. So the next time I went to a hotel, I brought my little thing with me because I had my luggage anyway. And I anointed the door, anointed the windows, and guess what? I slept soundly, okay? This last time I was just in a hotel for a couple of nights and I brought my oil with me, but I said to myself, I take authority over this before I even get there. And I slept soundly. Why? Because I took control, I took authority, because God taught me how to navigate that because of what I had dealt with previously, okay? So again, I don't care what you're dealing with. The first thing you've got to do is admit that it's happening. 2, you got to go to God. 3, you got to get his perspective. 4, you have to ask him, how can I actually partner with you? And then you have to actually partner. Okay, and partnering looks like doing what he's inviting you to do, and then potentially stopping doing some things that you shouldn't be doing. Okay, for example, like I know that God has told me over and over again that like demons tremble or whatever, and I'm like, okay, when I'm like doing what I'm doing, I'm like, okay, and but like I think 10 or so years previously, maybe more than that. He kept telling me, you got to stop watching these like killer shows and Saw and Law and Order and all this stuff and whatever. And I had quite the episode in my house with a roommate. I mean, it was wild. And he was like, see? And he told me, I threw all those DVDs away. So then, those shows continued to entice me. So I'm watching them again, watching them again, watching them again. And he kept saying, Kenya, you're not meant to play with demons. You're meant to slay them, not play with them. And so you're being enticed so you can be desensitized to them. Ouch. And so I started to realize, and even now when I get enticed, that like the whole goal is, if I'm going to partner with God with like having authority over demons, is that part of my partnership is I cannot be watching those things that I'm meant to slay, watching them as entertainment. Right? I just cannot, right? It's kind of like if I'm going to walk in purity, I can't watch a bunch of people having sex. I just can't watch a bunch of that stuff because it starts to mess with me and my desires and all that stuff. And your girl is not married, okay? So in order for me to have authority and not deal with some of those same spiritual issues that I have dealt with, he's like, you can't be operating in that. So like the demons that try to come against me and do all this crazy stuff, he goes, you can't be playing with them. You got to watch something else. Right? Because like you just can't be doing that. And so for me, that is part of my partnership with God. Okay? That is part of my partnership with God, to not be doing things I shouldn't be doing and just walking with him. Doesn't mean that I don't watch my favorite reality TV shows or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But what it does mean is that I partner with him of like, if we're doing this, you can't be playing with that. If we're walking in purity, you can't be doing that. You know what I mean? So that is what I wanted to share with you today, that if you are dealing with spiritual struggles, there's the process you have to allow yourself to go through with God, and you're going to come out on the other side, on a beautiful other side, right? But you're also going to come on the other side with more tools, right? And the more tools that you have in your tool belt, the next time something comes up, you're not going to be in the same spot mentally or emotionally or spiritually that you were in that first time, because now you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know this, I'm going to do this, this, and this. So like one of my tools is having the oil with me when I go to a hotel. Another one of my tools is I always have communion in my house. I usually keep like 1 or 2 in my purse, but I'm having that there. Why? Because if something comes up, I know communion and the oil will do all the things, okay? So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit like on this video. And then if you're listening on the podcast, I would love to know if you love the show, because if you write a review on the podcast, it lets me see how you feel about the show. And if you wouldn't mind, share it with a friend, okay? So thank you so much for listening and watching.